The ultimate power, walking away. The world is full of men who think that trying harder is the solution to a woman pulling away. They believe if they just send one more text, buy one more gift, or show just a little more devotion, she will finally see their value. They are wrong. In the world of high stakes attraction, boys chase, but legends walk. Chasing is a declaration of low value. It tells her that you believe she is the prize and you are the hunter who hasn't caught anything yet. But the moment you stop running, the entire dynamic of the relationship undergoes a violent tectonic shift. You aren't just physically removing yourself from her space, you are performing a surgical strike on her ego. You are cutting off the lifeblood of her confidence, your validation. By withdrawing your energy, you force her to stand alone in a cold reality where she is no longer the center of your universe. And that transition creates a sensation she absolutely loathes: pure, unadulterated powerlessness. You have to understand that for many women, male attention is like oxygen. They breathe it in to sustain their sense of self worth. When you provide constant attention while she treats you like an option, you are essentially subsidizing her arrogance. You are the mirror she uses to tell herself she's beautiful and untouchable. When you walk away, you take that mirror with you. Suddenly, she isn't looking at a devoted admirer anymore. She's looking at a void. This creates a psychological vacuum that she wasn't prepared to handle. She never saw it coming because she assumed your interest was a permanent fixture in her life. She thought she could park you on the sidelines while she explored other options, confident that you'd still be there whenever she decided to whistle. When you vanish, you prove her wrong in the most brutal way possible. You reclaim your time, your mystery, and most importantly, your respect. Have you ever witnessed that jarring overnight flip in a woman's behavior? It is one of the most fascinating shifts in human psychology. One day, she is cold, entitled, and acting like answering your text is a grueling chore. She treats your presence as a given and your feelings as a footnote. But the second she realizes you've genuinely checked out, not as a game, but as a lifestyle choice, the Ice Queen routine melts into a puddle of desperation. Suddenly, the woman who forgot to reply for 3 days is the same one stalking your Instagram stories at 2 a.m. She starts sending those, "Hey stranger," or "I saw this and thought of you" texts, which are really just pathetic attempts to see if the leash still works. She isn't doing this because she suddenly realized she's madly in love with you. Let's be direct. She doesn't miss you as a person yet. She misses the you that worshipped her. She misses the ego boost. She misses the security of knowing she had power over another human being. This is the brutal reality of power dynamics that most men are too afraid to acknowledge. You cannot be the prize if you are always available for purchase. When a man understands his true worth, he stops negotiating for a seat at a table where he isn't respected. He simply stands up and leaves the room. By being willing to walk away and never look back, you become an enigma. You become the one thing she cannot explain or control. And in her mind, that makes you incredibly dangerous and infinitely more attractive. You aren't just a man anymore. You are a man with boundaries, and a man with boundaries is a man with power. When you stop providing the fuel for her ego, she has to find a new source, and she quickly realizes that no one else provided it quite like you did. By leaving the table, you didn't lose the game, you became the one who owns the board. Segment 1: Shock and Denial. Women who understand power dynamics are masters of psychological leverage. They don't need physical strength or aggressive force to keep a man in line. They use the drip feed method of affection. This is a calculated strategy where she gives you just enough warmth, just enough physical touch, or just enough sweet words to keep your hope alive, only to pull it all away the moment you start to feel secure. She creates a hunger in you. By starving you of consistent attention, she forces you to become the aggressor in the chase. Every time she takes longer to reply or cancels a plan, the average man doubles down. He thinks if he sends a longer text, calls one more time, or tries to be more charming, he can win back the warmth she's withholding. But here is the cold truth. Every time you try harder in response to her pulling away, you are handing her the keys to your self respect. You are showing her that your emotional state depends entirely on her mood. And to her, that is the ultimate sign of weakness. Everything changes the second you stop playing the game. When you go completely silent, she won't panic immediately. In fact, her ego is so inflated that she will initially pretend not to notice your absence. She tells herself a lie to remain comfortable. She'll convince herself you're just busy at work or that you're trying to use a tactic you saw online to make her jealous. She sits back with a smirk, waiting for the inevitable moment you break. She is used to men who can't go 48 hours without checking in, men who eventually cave and send that desperate, I miss you text. But as the days turn into weeks and you remain a ghost, her reality begins to crack at the seams. The silence becomes deafening. She realizes you aren't just playing a game, you've actually left the arena. This is when she starts testing the waters. She'll drop a random like on an old photo, send a vague, meaningless text, or watch every single one of your social media stories the second they go live. She is starving for a reaction. She is desperate for any sign that she still owns a piece of your mind. If you remain a fortress of silence, her sense of control isn't just dented, it is completely shattered. Segment 2: The Collapse of the Ego. As your silence persists, her internal dialogue shifts from mild annoyance to deep, corrosive self doubt. You have to understand a fundamental difference in how we are raised. Men are forged in the fires of rejection. From the time we are teenagers, we are told no, we are ghosted, and we are ignored. We have thick skin because we've had to build it. Most attractive women, however, have never had to deal with a man genuinely walking away while they still wanted his attention. They live in a world of constant options, endless DMs, and a nonstop stream of validation. When a man she once had in the palm of her hand suddenly treats her like she doesn't exist, it forces her to confront a question she has spent her whole life avoiding. Am I losing my value? This isn't just about you anymore. It's a crisis of her own identity. This is the stage where she begins to obsess. She starts spending more time in front of the mirror, wondering if she's losing her looks or if she's finally met a man she couldn't handle. She will spend hours scrolling through your followers, looking for any new woman who might have replaced her, eating herself alive with a jealousy she didn't even know she was capable of feeling. Her entire sense of self is built on the idea of being the desired one. When you stop desiring her, you strip her of her primary weapon and her greatest source of comfort. On the outside, she might post revenge photos or act like she's having the time of her life, but it's a mask. Inside, she is screaming for the very validation you used to give away for free. The fact that she can no longer summon you with a single text drives her into a psychological tailspin because it proves that you are the one with the real power. Segment 3: Rationalization and the Rebound. To protect her fragile ego from total collapse, she will enter the phase of rationalization. She has to find a way to make your departure your fault so she doesn't have to admit she fumbled a high value man. She will begin rewriting the history of your entire relationship. She'll tell her friends and anyone who will listen that you were too needy, too intense, or that she just wasn't that into you anyway. This propaganda campaign isn't actually for her friends. It's a lie she tells herself so she can sleep at night. She needs to convince herself that she didn't lose a legend, but rather that she discarded someone beneath her. This is a desperate survival mechanism for her ego. She would rather believe a lie than face the brutal truth that her games drove away the only man who actually had the backbone to leave. Often, to numb the pain of your silence, she will jump headfirst into a rebound. She will find the first beta male who is willing to worship the ground she walks on, a man she can control with zero effort. She uses this new guy as an emotional bandage. She needs to see someone chasing her, someone texting her good morning every day, and someone begging for her time, just to prove to herself that she is still the prize. You'll see the staged photos, the forced smiles, and the over the top displays of affection on social media. But don't be fooled. It is a performance for an audience of one. She is trying to trigger a reaction from you to validate her own worth. The tragedy for her, however, is that a woman can never truly respect a man she can control. She will quickly grow bored of her doormat rebound, realize that the grass was actually a desert on the other side, and inevitably look back with regret at the man who had the strength and the self respect to walk away and never look back. The ultimate truth, the most painful truth that most men will never accept, is that a woman can never truly love a man she can manipulate. She might like him, she might use him for security, and she might keep him around for comfort, but she will never feel that raw, deep seated attraction that only comes from respect. You have to understand the hard wiring of attraction. Respect is the foundation of desire. The moment a woman realizes she can move you with a pout, control you with silence, or pull your strings with a little bit of drama, the mystery is gone. You become a known quantity, a tool she can use, rather than a force she must reckon with. Women are not looking for a servant. They are looking for a leader who is anchored in his own reality. They don't want a man they can push around. They want the man who stands his ground so firmly that she knows she can't shake him. When you lose your ability to say no, you lose your value in her eyes. The only man a woman will ever truly value is the man who is genuinely willing to lose her. This is the ultimate cheat code to human dynamics. If you are terrified of her leaving, she can smell that fear from a mile away. That fear makes you weak. It makes you over explain yourself. It makes you apologize when you've done nothing wrong. And it makes you stay in situations where you are being disrespected. But the man who is willing to walk away the moment his boundaries are crossed is the most dangerous man in the world to her ego. Why? Because he isn't a slave to his desires. He values his own peace of mind and his own self respect more than he values her presence. This creates a psychological vacuum where she realizes that your attention is not a right, but a privilege, one that can be revoked at any second if she stops earning it. When she knows you aren't afraid of the door, she finally feels the weight of your worth. You must stop the cycle of chasing, begging, and constantly trying to prove your worth to someone who has already shown you they don't see it. Think about the logic. If you have to convince someone that you are valuable, you have already lost. Diamonds don't beg to be noticed. They just sit there and shine, and the world recognizes their value instinctively. When you chase a woman, you are implicitly telling her that she is above you and you are below her, trying to climb up to her level. You are training her to look down on you. Stop asking for permission to be respected. Stop sending those long paragraphs explaining your feelings. Stop trying to fix her perception of you. Your worth is not up for debate, and it is certainly not dependent on her opinion. If she doesn't see the prize standing right in front of her, that is her loss, not your failure. When you finally embody the truth that you are the prize, you don't just win the game, you stop playing it entirely. Most men are exhausted because they are constantly trying to figure out the moves to make a woman stay. They are playing a game where the rules are stacked against them. But when you shift your mindset and realize that your life, your goals, and your self respect are the most important things you own, the game disappears. You no longer care about winning her over because you are too busy winning at life. You become the sun, and everyone else becomes the planets orbiting your gravity. This isn't about being arrogant or cruel. It's about being so grounded in your own value that you no longer need external validation to feel like a man. Once you reach this level, you become unreachable to the games and the manipulation. You are free. And ironically, that freedom is exactly what makes you the most magnetic man she has ever met.